that how a person learnt a particular type of language and how he mastered it. So all these people have experienced language, they have felt, they have sensed. Neither they have learnt anywhere, nor they have gone to any classes or any institution for learning. Rather, learning language is possible, but how to produce it in a beautiful or a creative way, that is inbuilt, that nobody teaches, or nobody can teach rather, because teaching is never possible. The only thing that is possible is learning. So person can learn in certain way and he can make other learn in certain way. But study language or explaining language will be as monotonous as to watch any movie that we do not like. So that will not work, in short. So again, keeping this in mind, we also need to understand what is LSRW. LSRW, so L for listening, S for speaking, R for reading, and W for writing. We have divided these 4 skills of language into 2 parts, that is active skills and passive skills. When we say active skills, these are 2 skills, speaking and writing. Point is, why do we call them active skills? Active skills because these are productive skills, these are creative skills. When you speak something, you give something new. Not always, but generally when you speak something, you create something, or you are giving something novel. Similarly, when you write something, you produce something. Therefore, these 2 skills are called active skills. On the other hand, when you listen something, you receive a message. When you read something, you receive a message. So listening and reading, again, these are 2 main sources of knowledge and information. You can get any knowledge, you can get any information either by listening it or by reading it. So there will be a combination, a very good combination of rather listening and reading. Now the point is, in the next slide, as this particular slide we had discussed earlier also, before few slides, that person can learn certain things either by instincts, senses, intellect, intuition, and book and literature. So here in book and literature will be coming reading skill, whereas in senses will come listening skill. So keeping this particular 5 sources of learning in mind, we need to know how a person will learn language, or in other words, how language learning or the process of learning language will be effective, beneficial to the person, utilizing from which particular way. Therefore we have discussed. Now right now what I am actually doing is, I am just trying to linking the points, or just I will remind you the title of our discourse, that is language, learning and literature. So actually there is a triangle being shaped right now. On the one end of a triangle there is language, on the another end of a triangle there is learning, and on the third end of a triangle there is literature. And there is a very important link, there is something bridging link between these 3 points of a triangle. So there is a connection between learning, there is a connection between language, there is a connection between literature. Now in this particular slide you can see that ways of receiving knowledge and information. As I said before, that knowledge or information you can get either by listening or by reading. These are 2 possible ways. Either you can know something when you listen something, or you can know something when you read something. These are the 2 main sources of knowledge. Yes, of course, when you view something, when you watch something, again you will get knowledge, but again that will be the process of viewing. So when colors you for example see, so some message or some coding, decoding you will be trying to crack. This particular small graph will explain that we do not read as much as we listen during a day or during our course of life. This is just a roughly calculation, that if during a day we know 100 things, so out of 100 there are only 25% of thing or 25 things are there which we knew from reading. Rest of the 75 things we knew, or we came to know, or we could know through listening. So person can learn a lot when he listens. The moral of the story is this. So we listen more than we read, and therefore we know more from listening than from reading. This is the particular idea, and this is actually our subtopic, that listening skills and its types. So here are certain types of listening which are again very important to know. There are 4 types of listening which I will very briefly explain. Appreciative listening, empathetic listening, comprehensive listening, and critical listening. For example, what is appreciative listening? Appreciative listening is something when we listen something for entertainment or aesthetic pleasure, it will be appreciative listening. Say for instance, if you watch a comedy show, for example Laughter Challenge, if you watch any comedy movie, if you listen any music, if you listen any song, if you listen your favorite person, his talks or her talks, all these types of listening will be appreciative listening, at the end of which either you will appreciate the person or you will entertain yourself. So that is called appreciative listening. The second type of empathetic listening, that is bit very complicated to understand. When we listen something emotionally and comforts the speaker for his or her problem. For example, when doctor will listen to a patient, it will be empathetic listening, because doctor need not just listening the patient, lawyer need not just listening the client, he or she needs to solve the problem, and he or she will be able to solve the problem only when he will do empathetic listening. So when you listen somebody empathetically, you have emotions and feelings attached with you. Without feelings and without emotions, if you listen somebody, then you are not actually doing empathetic listening. So appreciative listening is something that will give you entertainment. Empathetic listening is something wherein your own emotions and feelings are attached. Comprehensive listening, when you listen something with a specific purpose of listening to understand or intention to understand, that will be comprehensive listening. Say for instance, when students will listen to a teacher in the class, so that will be comprehensive listening. And the last comes, that is critical listening. For example, when after listening something, when you have to reach a very important decision, that is called a critical listening. Here is an example given, that a judge listens a case in a court of law, or a customer listens to a salesman, and after listening the salesman, a customer is supposed to decide whether to purchase the product or not. So that will be the critical listening. So thus there are 4 types of listening we saw: appreciative listening, empathetic listening, comprehensive listening, and critical listening. There are many other types also, but these are certain crux. Now point is that many a times during our day, in our professional sphere or in our academic, because we live in different types of atmosphere, you understand, we live in domestic atmosphere when we are at our home with our family members and relatives. When we are in our office, so we live in a professional atmosphere or in an academic atmosphere. When as a student we are in college or in any institute, so some institutional power working over our head. Fine. So accordingly we have to behave, accordingly we have to sit, we have to stand, we have to talk, we have to listen, we have to take people, we have to accept them, so on and so forth. So we also live in spiritual atmosphere, religious atmosphere, social atmosphere, festivals and other celebrations. Whenever we are there, we have to behave accordingly. In short, during our day, during our course of life, many a times we listen so many things, but everything that we hear is not listening. So there is a difference between hearing and listening. Everything that we hear is not listening. So these are the types of listening as we saw, and these are the very important ways to brainstorm on the question that will be the last point to discuss, that can language ever be taught? Teaching second language, that is English, to the technical students. Any good lecture or any good discourse is something that leaves so many questions with us. So here actually in the last slide I am not going to give the solutions, but I leave my listeners and viewers with certain questions and problems which I hope that they just think on their own there and they come up with some very fruitful solutions. And the very first thing is that challenges, there are challenges for the students as well as teachers, because of dull base, students' base or their fundamental concepts they are not clear with. So far so language is concerned. Majority students are coming from agrarian society, rural area where schools hardly they go and hardly they learn language. Second is various teaching learning methodology. There are so many other methodology of teaching English: direct method, indirect method, translation method. You can teach through examples. Fine. Then role of communication level. For example, horizontal level. When two same type of people talk, that is called horizontal. When upper person talks to lower person, that is downward. When vice versa, when down level person talks to upper level person, that will be upward communication. So again, communication and its levels also plays very important role. Role of psychology. A good teacher must be a good psychologist. You need to understand and interpret the psychology of student. That will help a lot. On the other hand, students also need to do the same exercise. Role of mother tongue and translation. Anything that is in our mother tongue, we can learn best anything in our mother tongue only, because we can express our ideas and feelings in our mother tongue only. We may be the master of second language, that is English or any other language, but when we cry, when we laugh, there is no language of crying and laughing, but there is a language of emotions and feelings that we can express best only and only in our mother tongue. The next point is there is cultural differences and background differences. So culture means not only cultures of two different nations and countries, cultures of state, cultures of mind, culture of home, culture of village, culture of town, culture of academic atmosphere, culture of teaching. So many types of cultures are there. In college also there are different type of atmosphere. Schools also there are different types of people and atmosphere. Accordingly the background also works a lot. And last one is the role of literature written in English and its reading by the students. So when we recommend the students to read some good literature, so we keep on telling them that you read newspapers and you listen the commentaries. Actually they should listen something of their own interest. Until and unless they read something of their own interest, they read something which they like, I don't think they will be able to improve the language skills. So teachers as well as students both need to understand this particular concept of learning language, as we now finally have collected and connected, collection and connection. We have collected also and we have connected also so many ideas about language, learning and literature. So we again now need to understand what do we mean by literature, what type of literature the students must read for improving their language, and all those syllabus books are already available with them, but something of their own choice, if they start reading in the second language, I think that will be the best way to learn language. And ultimately the extraction of the lecture and the discourse is that teaching is never and never possible. The only thing that will be possible of learning, it means even a teacher will learn while teaching in the class. Teacher will learn various methodology and various ways of explaining the same thing. For example, one thing can be explained in multiple ways. So on the part of teacher, it is very much necessary how to teach. On the part of students, it is very much necessary how to take the things. I hope that this particular lecture will certainly remove certain confusions, and my small effort will certainly remove certain doubts, ambiguities and misconceptions which do exist in the minds of young students and the teachers. And I hope that this effort taken by Gujarat Technological University and the entire team will be proved very fruitful, and it will really work for the students. All my good wishes and compliments are always there with the students. Once again, I thank Gujarat Technological University, Honorable Vice Chancellor and entire team of GTU and LVCOM for giving me such a wonderful and golden opportunity to share my views and ideas through the medium of BISEG. Once again, thank you so much.